Do you know why most people stay broke their entire lives, while Jewish families quietly build generational wealth that lasts centuries? It is not because they earn more money. It is not because they got lucky. It is because they understand something fundamental about spending that 99% of the world has never been taught. And today, I am going to expose the 5 things Jewish people absolutely never buy. 5 spending habits that are silently draining your bank account every single month while you wonder why you can never get ahead. My name does not matter. What matters is that I have spent over 40 years studying the Talmud, the Torah, and the financial wisdom that has been passed down through my family for 7 generations. My grandfather was a rabbi in Jerusalem. His father before him taught these same principles in a small synagogue in Poland before the war. And his father before him carried this knowledge across borders, through persecution, through exile, through every imaginable hardship, and yet, through all of it, our family never went broke, not once, not in 7 generations. Now here is what is important. The 5th thing I am going to reveal to you today, the last one, is so counterintuitive that when I first learned it from my grandfather, I actually argued with him about it. I told him he was wrong, and he looked at me with those calm, ancient eyes and said, "One day you will understand." It took me 15 years, but he was right, and when I finally understood it, my entire financial life changed forever. But you need to watch until the very end, because these 5 principles build on each other. If you miss even one, the whole system falls apart. And I promise you, by the time this video is over, you will never look at money the same way again. I learned these principles when I was 19 years old. I had just started my serious study of the Talmud, and I thought I knew everything. I was young, arrogant, and honestly, I was terrible with money. I spent everything I earned. I bought things to impress people I did not even like. I was doing everything wrong, and I did not even know it. Then one evening after Shabbat dinner, my grandfather called me into his study. He had this old wooden desk covered in books and papers, and he sat me down, and he said something I will never forget. He said, "The world will teach you how to earn money, but only the Torah will teach you how to keep it." And then he opened an ancient commentary, one that had been in our family for generations, and he began to show me passages that changed everything I thought I knew about wealth. He explained to me that in Jewish tradition, wealth is not just about how much you make. It is about what you refuse to spend on. He told me that the wealthiest Jewish families throughout history all shared the same discipline. They all avoided the same 5 categories of spending. And these were not random preferences. These were principles rooted in thousands of years of Talmudic wisdom, tested and proven across generations and continents. Everything I am teaching you in this video is only the beginning. If you are serious about applying these ancient Jewish wealth principles to your life, I wrote a book called The Ancient Wealth Code. It contains the complete system, all 10 principles that Jewish families have used for 3,000 years to build, protect, and pass down wealth from generation to generation. This is not theory. This is the exact playbook. It is available right now in the description below and pinned in the first comment. Go get your copy today because knowledge without action is worthless. The first time I applied these principles seriously, I was 23 years old and struggling. I had debts. I had stress. I could not sleep at night because I was worried about money. I decided to follow my grandfather's teaching exactly, without modification, without shortcuts. Within 6 months, my debts were gone. Within a year, I had savings for the first time in my life. Within 3 years, I had built my first real investment, and it all started not with earning more, but with understanding what never to buy. Now, if you are ready to activate this ancient wisdom in your own life, write in the comments right now, "I choose financial wisdom." I read every single comment, and I want to see thousands of declarations down there. Do it now before we continue. Here is what I know about you. I know you work hard. You probably work harder than most people around you. You wake up early, you put in long hours, you do everything they told you to do. And yet, at the end of the month, there is barely anything left. The bills eat everything. The expenses keep growing. And no matter how much more you earn, it never seems to be enough. I know this because I have sat with thousands of people over the past 4 decades and heard the exact same story over and over again. You feel like you're on a treadmill, running faster and faster, but never actually getting anywhere. You see other people who seem to have it figured out, and you wonder what they know that you do not. You try budgeting apps, you watch financial advice videos, you read books about investing, and maybe it works for a week or two, but then you slip right back into the same patterns. Here is the truth that nobody wants to tell you. The conventional financial advice you have been given is fundamentally incomplete. They tell you to save 10% of your income. They tell you to invest in index funds. They tell you to cut your morning coffee. And sure, some of that is fine on the surface, but it completely ignores the root cause of why people stay poor. It treats the symptoms without ever addressing the disease. The Talmud teaches that wealth and poverty are not just material conditions. They are spiritual states that begin with your relationship to money itself. If you do not understand why you spend the way you spend, no budget in the world will save you. If you do not understand the spiritual laws that govern abundance, you can earn $1 million and still end up broke. You have been told that buying more things will make you happy, that spending is a reward you deserve, that you only live once, so you might as well enjoy it. That is one of the most dangerous lies ever told. And it has kept billions of people trapped in a cycle of earning and spending and earning and spending until they die with nothing to show for it and nothing to leave behind. The Jewish people understood this 3,000 years ago. That is why, despite being less than 0.2% of the world population, Jewish families have built and maintained some of the most enduring wealth in human history. It is not intelligence. It is not conspiracy. It is discipline rooted in ancient wisdom. And the foundation of that discipline is knowing what never to buy. Now let me share the framework with you. What I am about to teach you comes directly from Talmudic principles on wealth management that have been studied and refined by rabbis for over 3 millennia. These are not my opinions. These are time-tested laws of financial wisdom that have survived the destruction of empires. What makes this different from every other financial advice you have ever heard is 5 things. First, it operates on the principle that what you do not spend matters infinitely more than what you earn. Second, it addresses the spiritual and psychological roots of wasteful spending, not just the math. Third, every single principle has been tested across thousands of years and dozens of cultures. Fourth, it requires no special income level. You can apply this whether you make $30,000 or $300,000 a year. And fifth, the results compound over time in ways that will genuinely shock you. The Talmud states that who is wealthy? The one who is content with their portion. Most people read that and think it means you should just be happy being poor. That is a complete misunderstanding. What it actually means is that true wealth comes from the discipline of knowing what is enough, from the wisdom to distinguish between what adds to your life and what quietly destroys it. And that is exactly what these 5 principles will teach you. Here is the first thing Jewish people never buy: status symbols for the sake of impressing strangers. I want you to really hear this, because it goes against everything modern culture teaches you. In Jewish tradition, there is a concept called tazniut, which most people translate as modesty, but it actually means something much deeper. It means living in alignment with your true values, rather than performing for an audience that does not care about you. I learned this from my grandfather when I was young and wanted to buy an expensive watch. I had saved up for months. I was so proud. And when I told him what I was about to buy, he asked me one simple question. He said, "Who is this watch for?" I said it was for me. And he said, "No, it is for the people you want to notice you." and those people will forget about it in 5 minutes, while you will be paying for it for months. That hit me like a truck. And he was right. Look at what is happening in the world right now. Just this year, consumer debt has hit record levels globally. People are financing luxury cars they cannot afford, buying designer clothes on credit, upgrading to the newest phone every single year. And for what? For a momentary feeling of status that evaporates the second they walk away from the person they were trying to impress. The Talmud warns against this repeatedly. There is a teaching that says a person who chases honor will find that honor runs from them, but a person who runs from honor will find that honor chases them. Jewish families understood this. You will notice that some of the wealthiest Jewish business families in history dressed modestly, drove modest cars, lived in homes that were comfortable but not ostentatious, not because they could not afford luxury, but because they understood that every dollar spent on impressing someone else is a dollar stolen from your family's future. Here is what I want you to do. Look at your spending over the last 3 months and ask yourself honestly, how much of this was for me, and how much of this was for the image I want other people to have of me? I guarantee that number will shock you. For most people, it is 30 to 50% of their discretionary spending. Imagine redirecting that money into investments, into your children's education, into building something that actually lasts. The second thing Jewish people never buy is depreciating assets disguised as investments. This is one of the most important financial principles in the Talmud, and almost nobody talks about it. There is a clear teaching that you should invest in land, in business, and in things that produce more. You do not put your wealth into things that lose value the moment you acquire them. I see people doing this every single day, and it breaks my heart. They buy brand new cars that lose 20% of their value the second they drive off the lot. They fill their homes with furniture and electronics that will be worth nothing in 5 years. They spend money on the latest gadgets and trends that will be obsolete in 18 months. My grandfather used to say that there are 2 kinds of purchases, those that feed you and those that eat you. A new car eats you. A rental property feeds you. A closet full of clothes you wear twice eats you. A business that generates income feeds you. Right now in 2025, we are watching this play out in real time. Interest rates are elevated. Inflation has eroded purchasing power, and yet people are still financing depreciating items at 8, 10, 12% interest. They are literally paying extra money to own things that are becoming worth less every single day. The Talmud would call this financial insanity, and it is one of the primary reasons most people will never build lasting wealth. In Jewish tradition, every purchase must pass a simple test. Will this be worth more or less in 5 years? If the answer is less, you need an extraordinarily good reason to buy it. Transportation? Fine. Buy a reliable used car that serves its purpose. But do not confuse a depreciating liability with a wise purchase. The distinction between the two is the distinction between building wealth and destroying it. The third thing Jewish people never buy is anything that creates recurring obligations without recurring income. This is huge, and it connects to a Kabbalistic principle about energy flow. In Kabbalah, we teach that money is a form of energy, and energy must flow in a cycle. When you create outflows without corresponding inflows, you create an energetic drain that slowly bleeds your prosperity dry. I see this everywhere today. People sign up for subscription after subscription. Streaming services, gym memberships they never use, premium apps, monthly boxes of things they do not need. Each one is only $10 or $15 a month, so it feels harmless. But when you add them all up, the average person is spending $300 to $500 every month on recurring charges they barely think about. That is $4,000 to $6,000 a year vanishing into thin air. My grandfather taught me to think of recurring expenses as tiny holes in a bucket. You can pour water in as fast as you want, but if the bucket has 50 small holes, it will never fill up. And that is exactly what most people's financial lives look like. They are pouring income into a bucket full of holes and wondering why they can never accumulate anything. The Jewish approach is radically different. Before taking on any recurring expense, you first establish a recurring income source to cover it. You want a subscription that costs $50 a month? First create something that generates $50 a month. You want a car payment of $400? First build a side income stream that covers it. This way, your bucket stays intact. Nothing drains without being replenished. I applied this principle rigorously, starting in my late 20s, and it transformed my finances within a single year. Every recurring expense in my life is covered by a corresponding income stream. My investments cover my living expenses. My teaching income covers my discretionary spending. Nothing comes out of the bucket without something flowing back in. And this is how Jewish families maintain wealth across generations, while others see it evaporate within a single lifetime. Now the fourth thing Jewish people never buy, and this one really surprises people. They never buy financial products they do not fully understand. The Talmud has extensive teachings about honest commerce and fair dealing, and one of the core principles is that both the buyer and the seller must understand exactly what is being exchanged. If you do not understand it, you do not buy it. Period. I cannot tell you how many people I have spoken with over the years who lost everything because they invested in things they could not explain. Complex derivatives, cryptocurrency schemes they heard about from a friend, real estate deals with terms they never read, business opportunities that sounded too good to be true. And every single time, the story is the same. Someone told me it was a sure thing. Someone told me I could not lose. Someone told me everyone was doing it. The Talmud warns specifically against following the crowd into financial decisions. There is a teaching that says, when everyone runs in one direction, pause and consider running the other way. This is not about being contrarian for its own sake. It is about recognizing that when something becomes a mania, when everyone is rushing to buy it, the opportunity has usually already passed, and what remains is risk. Just look at what has happened in recent years. People poured their life savings into speculative assets they did not understand, chasing returns that seemed magical, and many of them lost everything. Meanwhile, the Jewish families I know were doing what they have always done, investing in businesses they understand, in real estate they can touch and manage, in time-tested vehicles that have proven themselves over decades and centuries. My grandfather had a rule that I follow to this day. If you cannot explain an investment to a 12-year-old in 3 sentences, you have no business putting your money into it. Simplicity is not a sign of ignorance. Simplicity is a sign of clarity, and clarity is the foundation of every wise financial decision. Now we arrive at the 5th thing, and this is the one my grandfather taught me that I argued with him about. This is the one that seems counterintuitive, but is perhaps the most powerful of all. Jewish people never buy their way out of problems that require personal growth. Let me explain what I mean. When most people face a challenge, whether it is in their career, their relationships, their health, or their finances, their first instinct is to throw money at it. Unhappy at work, buy something to make yourself feel better. Marriage struggling, book an expensive vacation instead of doing the hard work of communication. Feeling unfulfilled? Buy a course, buy a program, buy a new wardrobe, buy a new car, buy anything to fill the void. The Talmud teaches that there are certain problems that money cannot solve, and when you try to solve them with money, you make them worse. You create a dependency on external things to fix internal conditions, and that dependency becomes a bottomless pit that will swallow every dollar you ever earn. When my grandfather told me this, I was 25 and going through a difficult period. I was spending money like crazy trying to make myself feel better. New clothes, expensive dinners, trips I could not afford, and none of it worked. The emptiness always came back, usually worse than before. He told me that the ancient rabbis distinguished between 2 types of needs of the body and needs of the soul. Needs of the body can be met with money, food, shelter, clothing, medicine, but needs of the soul, meaning, purpose, connection, growth, these cannot be purchased. They can only be earned through discipline, study, and inner work. This principle alone saved me more money than all the other four combined. Because once I stopped trying to buy my way to happiness, once I stopped using spending as an emotional medication, I discovered that most of my purchases had been attempts to fill a void that money could never fill. And when I addressed that void through study, through prayer, through genuine self-development, the compulsive spending simply stopped on its own. I have personally witnessed this transformation in thousands of people. When they stop buying status symbols, their self-respect actually increases because it is no longer dependent on external validation. When they stop buying depreciating junk, their net worth starts climbing for the first time in their lives. When they eliminate unnecessary recurring expenses, they feel a weight lift off their shoulders that they did not even know they were carrying. When they stop investing in things they do not understand, they sleep better at night. And when they stop throwing money at problems that require growth instead of spending, they finally start becoming the person they were always meant to be. Let me share something deeper with you. There is a teaching in the Talmud that says, the world stands on three things: on Torah, on service, and on acts of kindness. When I first studied this passage as a young man, I thought it was purely spiritual. But after decades of applying these principles, I realized it is also profoundly practical. Torah represents knowledge and wisdom, meaning you must educate yourself before you spend. Service represents work and discipline, meaning you must earn before you consume. And acts of kindness represent generosity, meaning you must give before you receive. These three pillars are the foundation of Jewish financial philosophy, and when you build your financial life on these pillars, instead of on impulse, ego, and emotional spending, everything changes. I have seen people who were drowning in debt become completely free within 2 years. I have seen families who lived paycheck to paycheck start building real generational wealth, and in every single case, the transformation began not with earning more, but with eliminating these 5 categories of wasteful spending. Right now, we are living through one of the most economically uncertain periods in modern history. Inflation is eroding savings. Markets are volatile. The cost of living keeps climbing while wages stagnate. And most people are more financially stressed than ever before. But these ancient Jewish principles work in any economy. They worked during the Roman Empire. They worked during the Middle Ages. They worked during the Great Depression. And they work right now in 2025. Because they are not based on market conditions or economic trends. They are based on universal laws of wisdom and discipline that never change. Let me summarize what you have learned today. First, never buy status symbols to impress people who do not matter. Second, never buy depreciating assets and confuse them with investments. Third, never take on recurring expenses without corresponding recurring income. Fourth, never invest in financial products you cannot clearly explain. And fifth, never try to buy your way out of problems that require personal growth. You now have the exact framework that Jewish families have used for thousands of years to build and maintain wealth through every possible circumstance. This is not theory. This is not wishful thinking. This is practical, proven wisdom that works. Now I want you to understand something. You are not weak for needing this knowledge. You are not foolish for not knowing it sooner. The truth is, this wisdom has been kept within families and communities for generations. It was not taught in schools. It was not shared in mainstream media. It was passed down quietly, from grandfather to grandson, from mother to daughter, in private conversations after Shabbat dinner. The fact that you have watched this far tells me something important about you. It tells me you are serious. It tells me you are not someone who just consumes content and does nothing. You are someone who is ready for real change, and that readiness is everything. The Talmud teaches that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. You are here for a reason, and now you have a choice. You can close this video and go back to the same spending patterns that have kept you stuck. Or you can take these 5 principles, apply them starting today, and begin building the kind of lasting wealth that protects your family for generations to come. I already know which choice you are going to make. But with this knowledge comes responsibility.